and she declined it. If that doesn't tell you how much money Caitlin Clark is making, I don't know, bro. Because who's saying no to $15 million for 10 games? She doesn't even have to score 10 points and she still would be making more than a lot of NBA players make. But Caitlin Clark isn't even back from injury yet to play for the Indiana Fever. Do you guys think Caitlin Clark should have taken this $15
million to play in 10 games? That's $1.5 million per game, bro. And she turned it down. Caitlin Clark, you so much better than me. The WNBA would have never, hey listen, I would have never stepped foot on that court. $1.5 million per game. Bron don't even make that. And you turned it down for her contract in the WNBA, she gonna make like $400,000 in 4 years. That's the part that I don't really understand about WNBA players. They make so much bread everywhere else. They be making more bread in college. They make more bread overseas. They can make more in Unrivaled, the Big Three. There's so many options, but they still be playing.
This is wild. The WNBA just blew up in front of everyone's eyes. Caitlin Clark, the face of the league, the one every camera is chasing, stared the commissioner down, got hit with a jaw-dropping $50 million offer, and brushed it off like it was lunch money. Can you even picture that? $50 million shoved right back across the table like it was cursed cash. Fans are stunned, critics are losing their minds, and the commissioner? He probably needs a whole squad of therapists on speed dial after this humiliation. Nobody, and I mean nobody, thought we'd ever see a rejection this savage. And here's where it really stings. Before Caitlin, the so-called massive deals barely touched $15 million, and even that was stretched out over a decade. People were celebrating like they'd won the lottery off that. 10 years for $15 million, and Caitlin just iced $50 million up front with a casual, "Nah, I'm good." That's not just confidence. That's a straight-up takeover move that sent the entire league spinning. But wait, it gets messier. The WNBA basically staged its own disaster scene, like a reality show meltdown gone wrong. Imagine the commissioner, grinning, sliding that once-in-a-lifetime contract across the table, expecting cheers, headlines, maybe even a victory parade, only to get hit with the coldest rejection this league has ever witnessed. But Caitlin, she didn't even flinch, just shrugged, cool as ice, and dropped the line, "Huge offer, but no thanks." That single moment lit the fuse that blew the whole league sky high. The WNBA didn't just stumble. They went straight up nuclear. Fans are still in shock. Critics are foaming like rabid dogs. And the league? They looked less like a pro sports giant and more like a kid throwing a tantrum in the middle of Walmart because the toy shelf was locked up. Total chaos. To really get why her rejection broke the internet, you gotta rewind to her insane rise. Caitlin Clark isn't just a hooper. She's a glitch in the system, a human cheat code. Back in college, she was casually sinking threes from what looked like the parking lot, making defenders spin around like lost extras in her highlight reel. And fans weren't just watching, they were desperate to be part of it. People were fighting for tickets, cramming into arenas just to witness the spectacle live. She wasn't just a rising star, she was a generational showstopper, the type of athlete you can't take your eyes off. So when she finally landed in the WNBA, she didn't walk in as a rookie. She stormed in as her own economy. Merch flying off shelves, ticket prices shooting through the roof, arenas selling out with the same frenzy as a Taylor Swift tour. Just minus the friendship bracelets. Naturally, the WNBA thought the moment had come to lock her down forever. They dropped a record-smashing $50 million offer, money the league had never even whispered before. And the craziest part? Most WNBA players before Caitlin were stuck grinding on contracts so small they wouldn't even cover an NBA rookie's sneaker budget. Caitlin Clark didn't just raise the bar, she smashed it into pieces. But here's the thing. This deal wasn't only about the cash. It was basically a desperate love letter, screaming in neon lights. "Caitlin, please don't leave us. We can't breathe without you." The league was flat out begging. And then came the shocker no one saw coming. She froze it out completely. Not just a no, but a cold-blooded, nuclear-level rejection that left the ones offering it instantly questioning every single move they've ever made. Picture the commissioner like some poor dude planning the ultimate proposal. Months of prep, fireworks cued, crowd screaming, cameras rolling in 4K, only to get shut down with the most brutal rejection ever right there under the spotlight. Total embarrassment. And here's where it gets wild. Caitlyn doesn't even need that $50 million. With Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and half of corporate America already throwing bags her way, she's got endorsement money that makes the league's record deal look like loose change. Think about it. Smiling in ads and draining logo threes from another zip code is cashing out way more than any WNBA paycheck ever could. The league thought they were handing Caitlin Clark the deal of a lifetime. But she already knows her value. She's not just another baller, she's the entire show. The reason casual fans even bother tuning in at all. At this point, Caitlin Clark is like Wi-Fi in your house. Yeah, you could survive without it, but nobody's sticking around if it's gone. And the second she iced that $50 million deal, the fallout hit like a bomb. Half the fans crowned her a genius, the other half dragged her as reckless, and the sports media, they went into full meltdown, spinning it like a Wall Street crash mixed with a royal scandal. Headlines were screaming, "Is Caitlin Clark destroying the WNBA?" And honestly, the league was probably asking itself the same thing. Without Clark, the WNBA risks sliding right back into being a sideshow, begging for airtime between late-night bowling reruns and random cornhole tournaments. That $50 million wasn't generosity. It was desperation, pure insurance to chain her down. And Caitlyn just flexed that she doesn't need the league nearly as much as they need her. It's like Netflix begging Taylor Swift to drop a special, only for her to laugh and say, "That's cute, I made more selling vinyl last week." The power flipped instantly. And here's the craziest part. The WNBA didn't take the hit quietly, not even close. They went into full-blown panic mode, scrambling like the whole empire was slipping out of their grip. Picture that boardroom right after her rejection, execs pacing, sweating through their suits, tossing out wild ideas, maybe even joking about selling plasma just to scrape up another $20 million. Meanwhile, the social media crew was grinding like mad, flooding feeds with highlight reels, hashtags, and those corny "believe in the game" slogans that nobody's buying for a second. But let's be real. The damage was already locked in. The story had leaked out into the world, and there was no stuffing it back in the box. Caitlin Clark had just flexed harder than anyone in league history. And the craziest part? She didn't even have to raise her voice to do it. Now comes the nightmare question. What does this mean for the WNBA's future? If one star can look a record-smashing $50 million deal dead in the face and casually wave it off, what does that say about the league's control over its biggest names? And here's where it stings even more. Caitlyn's not the only one who knows her worth. Other players are watching, taking notes, and lining up their own power plays. Meanwhile, the commissioner? Probably tossing and turning at 3 a.m., replaying that soul-crushing moment on a loop, wondering how the so-called dream deal flipped into an all-out nightmare. And if anyone thought the WNBA was just gonna smile, clap, and move on, nope! When this league feels cornered, it doesn't retreat. It snaps back harder. And trust me, the drama was only heating up from here. This wasn't just rejection, it was humiliation, broadcast live on the biggest stage. Picture throwing the ultimate surprise party. You book Beyoncé, rent a stadium, hire 5-star chefs, and the guest of honor ghosts you. That's the level of embarrassment the commissioner was choking on. Only this time, millions of people were watching in real time. The league's first reaction? Straight up denial. Suddenly, reports started popping up with anonymous insiders swearing Caitlyn hadn't really turned the deal down. Nope. According to them, it was just complicated or still under discussion. Translation: the WNBA was scrambling to cover itself faster than a teenager clearing their browser history before mom barges in. But then came the anger. And here's where it got sneaky. This wasn't just emotion, it was strategy. While the league was lashing out like it had something to prove, Caitlyn was already 10 steps ahead, playing chess while they were still struggling to figure out how to open the checkers box. Meanwhile, the internet? It was eating up the chaos like it was the Super Bowl. Memes were flying across timelines at lightning speed. Clips of the commissioner sweating through pressers got slapped with captions like, "When you realize your whole business model depends on a 22-year-old." Others mocked up fake WNBA ads that read, "Please, Caitlyn, we'll even throw in free snacks for life." Brutal, savage. Proof once again the internet never misses a chance to clown desperation. Naturally, fans split into two raging camps. On one side, the loyalists, blasting Caitlyn as a sellout, a diva, even ungrateful. They swore she was disrespecting the very league that put her in the spotlight. But let's keep it real. The WNBA didn't create Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark created the WNBA. Before her, league highlights were buried so deep they might as well have been collecting dust next to your uncle's VHS stash. But once she touched down, everything flipped. Arenas packed out, TV ratings soared, merch sold like sneakers on release day, and casual fans suddenly remembered the league even existed. On the flip side, her supporters were hyping her up like she was the smartest player alive, the only one bold enough to call the league's bluff and still walk away holding all the power. To them, this wasn't cocky. It was flat-out genius, straight-up next-level awareness. Why would Caitlin Clark chain herself to some long-term league deal when endorsements, media gigs, and her own brand could triple that payday with half the grind? Especially when those checks don't come with back-to-back bus rides to half-empty arenas. It got so crazy that a major network actually ran a full debate panel on whether Caitlin Clark had just ended the WNBA before it ever really took off. That kind of coverage is usually reserved for alien invasions or political scandals, not a basketball contract. But chaos sells, and Caitlin had just delivered a 5-star buffet of it on a silver platter. So what message did her rejection send to the TV networks? A massive slap in the face. Let's be real. Plenty of those networks only signed up for WNBA rights because Caitlin guaranteed sold-out arenas, viral highlights, and ratings that finally looked worth bragging about. Without her lockdown, that shiny new media deal instantly looked a whole lot less golden. And here's the part the league didn't see coming. The players noticed. For years, they'd been told to accept scraps, smile, and call it progress. But after Caitlin flipped the whole script under the world's spotlight, they realized something huge. Maybe they've been holding way more power than the league ever wanted them to believe. And don't get it twisted. This shook the commissioner to his core. At this point, it wasn't even about money anymore. It was about control. That $50 million wasn't just a paycheck, it was a leash. A golden chain meant to keep Caitlin Clark locked in, her shine tucked neatly under the WNBA's brand. But when she turned it down, her message hit like a hammer. You don't own me! For a commissioner used to players nodding yes to whatever crumbs they were tossed, this was an ego-crushing wake-up call. And here's the craziest part. Caitlin didn't even need to explain herself. Her silence was the answer. She'd already shattered records, blown past expectations, and instead of being trapped inside their system, she flipped the whole power dynamic on its head. It was like finding water in the desert, only for the water to look you dead in the eye and say, "Actually, I'm not interested in being bottled right now." That's how brutal her rejection landed. Suddenly, it wasn't just a contract move, it was a masterclass in real empowerment. And not that polished poster board empowerment the WNBA likes to plaster on campaigns. No. This was raw, unfiltered empowerment, the kind that makes execs lose sleep. By now, the meltdown wasn't just obvious, it was permanent. Caitlin Clark had made it crystal clear. The power no longer lived in the commissioner's office. It didn't sit in boardrooms or with TV networks anymore. It sat with Caitlin Clark, and she proved it by casually brushing off $50 million like it was pocket change. Here's the real sting for the WNBA. Caitlin didn't turn that deal down because the money wasn't enough. She turned it down because she doesn't even need it. Endorsements are already rolling in like an avalanche. Nike practically laid out a red carpet just to get her signature. Gatorade? They'd probably have warehouses stacked to the ceiling, bottles lined up with her face ready to go. And State Farm? They could dial her number in the morning and have her fronting a national ad by dinner time. And then there's her social media empire. Millions of views on every clip. Millions of fans ready to cop whatever sneakers she decides to lace up. Next to that, the commissioner's so-called record-breaking $50 million looked like pocket change tossed on the table. Caitlin didn't even blink, because to her, that mega deal was small fries. The league thought it was making the ultimate power play, but instead, Caitlin Clark flipped it into a punchline. Walking away from $50 million didn't shrink her brand. It detonated it, sending her stardom through the roof overnight. She wasn't just a superstar anymore. She became the star who made the WNBA look powerless, desperate, not even close. Caitlin Clark became the woman bold enough to say, "I don't need your record-breaking offer. I've got bigger plans. And here's the truth. In sports, nothing shines brighter, nothing hits harder than pure leverage. But let's zoom out, because this isn't just about one flashy contract. This is about the future of women's sports. For decades, female athletes were told to take scraps, smile for the cameras, and talk about growing the game, never question the massive pay gap staring them in the face. But when Caitlin walked away from the richest deal the WNBA ever dared to dangle, she dropped a message every athlete could feel in their bones. Gratitude doesn't pay the bills, leverage does. And don't get it twisted, this wasn't some wild gamble. The endorsement game is the Wild West, and Caitlin Clark is the gunslinger strolling into town already knowing she owns the saloon. Here's the crazy irony. The WNBA thought that $50 million deal was their safety net, the golden move that secured their future. Instead, it exposed just how shaky that future really is. Because if one star can flip the entire league on its head with a single rejection, what happens when the rest of the big names start testing their own worth too? Caitlin didn't just send a message, she lit the spark for a possible revolution, and she did it all without saying a single word. You can bet the commissioner is still tossing and turning every night, replaying that scene like a nightmare stuck on a loop. Imagine being in their shoes. You scrape together the richest contract your league has ever dared to offer. Dress it up like the Holy Grail. And the one player you've bet everything on doesn't just say no, it almost feels like she laughed while handing it back. That's the kind of rejection that camps out in your head forever, rent-free. And the beauty of it? Caitlin Clark doesn't need to talk at all. Every game she plays, every sold-out arena, every viral highlight does the speaking for her. She holds all the leverage without even lifting a finger. The harder the WNBA tries to spin it like they're running the show, the more obvious it is that Caitlin is the one in charge. She's not just comfortable, she's rewriting the entire playbook. By brushing off $50 million, Caitlin Clark redefined what it means to have options in modern sports. She proved what leagues hate to admit. The real power doesn't sit in a commissioner's office or a fancy boardroom. It lives with the stars who know their value and aren't afraid to flex it. At the end of the day, the WNBA needs Caitlin Clark way more than Caitlin Clark will ever need the WNBA. And with one devastating word, no, she made sure the whole world knew it. So what do you think? Did Caitlin Clark just change women's sports forever? Drop your take in the comments, smash that like button, share this video everywhere, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit that bell, click the video on screen, and we'll see you in the next one.